in my head, I was just pleading with God, honestly, please don't take my baby.
Welcome to Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, where we help people explode into their life through the concept of full impact mindfulness. We discuss present moment awareness and not being able to find yourself, but to create yourself. And the only entrance requirement is the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to try. And if you will have a few pixie dust sprinkles of those, jump into the canoe, grab a paddle, and we're on our way. I'm Jim Miller, I'm a behavioral health therapist. And for those followers of the show, know that we have an eclectic roster of guests. And today we're rejoined by one of our most favorite guests. And you know, I like to talk about people in recovery and how they got here from there. So welcome back, Emily.
Hi.
So could you give just a little bit of background on yourself, Emily, for those who have been not paying much attention to the podcast as you've been on successfully a few years ago?
So I'm Emily. I am 35 and I have 3 kids. They are 4, 6, and 8. I was a heroin addict for a decade or more, and in August of 2016, I went to rehab, came home, found out I was pregnant, and changed my life.
You changed your life. So what we talk about in the 12-step world, Emily, is about having a change in your thoughts and change in your actions. And unlike a common misconception of what we call the earth people, which is not a derogatory term, that contrary to popular belief, 12-step recovery is not about alcohol, gambling, drugs, or the 100 other groups. It's about behavioral change and a change in your thoughts and a change in your actions and some type of spiritual connection with a higher power. Could you say how that changed your life? What was the vehicle that got you where you're here today?
Honestly, this is going to sound kind of silly, but the second I found out I was pregnant with my oldest, there was just like a voice in my head that said, "This is it." And I knew my whole life that I wanted children. And at that moment, I was like, now I'm a mom. I'm not a junkie. I'm a mom now. And that was my spiritual awakening. I know it's not the same for everybody, but it was, I mean, I remember that moment as clear as day when there was just this little voice in my head saying, this is it.
Everybody has a moment of clarity. Everybody has an epiphany. And we always say in the 12-step world, Emily, that if we're present and aware, the Creator, the divine, will put people, places, things, circumstances, events in your life. And if you're there to witness them, then they'll have some meaning for you. In this case, it was your pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you made a choice.
I did.
So if anybody's interested out there, we'll be making links to Emily's previous podcast that just goes over her recovery in detail. However, we're here to discuss another story of strength and resilience.
Yes.
So you have a lovely young daughter, and her name is?
McKenna May.
McKenna May. So could you give us some timeline, some chronological order about McKenna May and her trials and tribulations?
So McKenna was in 2024, in early 2024. She was basically a perfectly healthy 2.5-year-old. She had this weird cough that I had explained to her doctor as I thought it sounded like my grandpa's congestive heart failure cough. And 14 days prior to March 4th, I had her at the doctor 6 different times, begging them to do more blood work to figure out what was going on. And they just kept telling me, it's a virus, she'll get over it. But I knew something was wrong. I mean, I was in full-blown panic mode 24 hours a day. And literally, I was at work, driving my little machine at work, just full body shaking because I knew something was wrong. And so fast forward through those 2 weeks, it was Monday, March 4th. McKenna was sitting on my lap. She said, "Mommy, I don't feel good." And she threw up all over me. And as I was, trying to get her off of me to clean up, she passed out. So I was on the phone with her dad, actually. So I hung up and I called 911. And she was gray, completely gray, limp in my arms. She was moaning. And so I called 911. The ambulance came.
So, Emily, when your daughter's gray in front of you, what was going through your mind?
Oh, fuck. Um, in my head, I was just pleading with God, honestly, please don't take my baby. I was on my sidewalk holding her, actually yelling. Neighbors were looking at me. It was an unusually warm day that day, and people were outside, and I'm just yelling, please don't take my baby, please don't take my baby, because I had known something was going on, something more was going on. And it's kind of strange because during my pregnancy with her, I kept vocalizing to the doctor, to her dad, to my best friends, like, I think something's wrong with this baby. I think something's wrong.
So, if we just backtrack just a little bit and talk about the bond, emotional, blood bond, psychic blonde, psychic bond that mothers have with their children. Could you say a little bit more about that? I'm sure that a lot of people will recognize that.
For me, it's different. Like, well, and maybe it's not different, but I could feel like my body knew something was off with her, and that's because she's a part of me. The weeks leading up to this, I think I took like 500 pictures of her. I would I just felt like compelled to just hold her and give her as many kisses as I could. And I'm very affectionate with my children anyway, but it was like my heart was like pulling me to her. And I have a bond with all three of my children, but that was like something that was I've never felt that before. And it was like my whatever part of her that is still inside me was telling me that something was truly, truly wrong. And I remember 2 nights before everything happened, she was dancing and being silly, and I took a video of her, and my brain said, "What if this is all you have left of her?" And I've never thought like that about any of my children. I've never had that thought because, I mean, as a mother of 3 young, healthy kids, why would I ever have that thought? I can't even explain it. I truly can't explain it.
So, what we're talking about here is you began to have some modicum of fear going through
Oh,
yourself.
absolutely. Yeah. I have anxiety, but the panic that I felt in those few days, especially the last 3 days leading up to everything, I've never felt that in my entire life. I've never felt that amount of panic. Even so, I talked about it in the last podcast. When my mom had passed away, she was in a car wreck. The neighbors called up and said she had wrecked and we needed to get down there immediately. And even that panic can't doesn't compare to the panic that I felt in those days leading up to March 4th. I like it was like every fiber of my being was just buzzing, vibrating, that's what I call it. I'm just my whole body is vibrating.
Most anxiety is fear driven. So, could you tell us a little bit about that fear and that anxiety you were experiencing?
My fear was that, so when they did do some blood work at those doctor appointments, and they kept saying, "We'll repeat that in 2 days." And so I was Googling everything, every single little code or whatever they put on there, and everything, the common denominator was cancer or a tumor. And so in my head, it was like, my baby has cancer. I mean, it was, but as a mom, I can't look inside of her and figure out what's going on. I can't, there's nothing I can do as just like a regular human being. I'm not a doctor. I don't, and you call and you have to wait for an appointment and everything. And I was just terrified that my baby had cancer and that I was going to lose her. I was going to lose her. And I didn't, how was I going to go on without my child?
How were you going to go on without your child? My goodness. what type of fear was that? You, did you feel empty inside? Did you feel...
I felt sick, truly sick to my stomach. Like, that we'll talk about it later on in the story too, just that, you know, it feels like the thoughts I was having consumed my whole day, but they also feel like they were just a split second, all these things running through my head. I remember I was at work the one day and we're not allowed to have our phones while we're driving our machines. And I kept my phone in the pocket because I was waiting for her doctor to call me. And Saturday, my dad took her to the doctor because finances were tight, so I couldn't really take off of work to go take her to the doctor again. And so the doctor called me and assured me that it was nothing more serious than a virus. And I knew she was wrong. I knew. But it was, I'm not a psychic. And, I want to trust her doctor. I mean, her doctor is all the other kids' pediatrician that followed them all since birth. And I wanted to, you put your faith in medical professionals. And sometimes they're wrong.
Oh, hi, Jim Ellermeyer back again from Fishing Without Bait. And as we offer and express transparency, this is a shameless plug for a book that we are selling. This is a 365-day calendar where we have a Zen type of picture to draw with a caption, and then we ask some thoughtful questions that people can answer, such as, what are your general thoughts about the quote? What is the morning thought in the morning? What is your evening thought? And what will you do tomorrow to spread kindness? Okay? And the beauty of this is that it's not numbered. You can pick any page out. It's not numbered. You can pick any day out and pick any quote out you want, or not. So what we're doing, we're asking people to use this as some type of a mindfulness activity to start their day. When we start our day, not trying to race through the day or with anxiety, but rather maybe some introspective self-talk, some internal validation. And what we're doing here is this. Also, what we'd like to do, we're going to be offering some Patreon material, maybe some behind the themes things, or some of the podcasts that we've done where we take a deeper dive, and we'd like to get your thoughts on that. What would you like to see? Are there any podcasts that we've done where you would like us to do a deeper dive? So you can please contact the show, and we'd be glad to explore that. And as always, we're looking for stories of recovery. Everybody's in recovery from something. We like to know how you got here from there. And please be good to yourself. And yes, this is a shameless plug. Dalai Lama says question everything, but you didn't have any reason to question that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just like, okay, I Googled it, but like maybe it is just a virus because, she's coughing. She ended up testing positive for strep. So, we started the antibiotics right away. And I thought that she did improve a little bit, like, because she hadn't been eating really. And Monday before she threw up on me, she ate noodles. She wanted to eat. So I was like, maybe the antibiotics are working. Maybe it was just a virus and this is just my anxiety consuming me. Like, but
did you feel you were being heard?
No.
When you expressed your concerns?
No.
Say more about that. That's very important.
I don't want to talk crap on her pediatrician,
No,
but
not at all.
After, having experience with probably 50 to 100 different doctors since she got sick, when they order blood work and they don't find anything that's super alarming, they order different sets of blood work, but at that time I didn't know that. I thought they're just doing the workup they do, not, if there's specific numbers that aren't off, they're not investigating further, why should I worry? But, now looking back on it, it was like, why didn't they do different testing? Her heart rate was sky high every time she was at the doctor. Why didn't they investigate that a little further? Why? But you trust your kids' doctors. I mean, I've never had any other issue with the doctor. there.
You had no reason to doubt.
No, I had no reason to doubt her, even though my body was telling me something different. I kind of brushed it off as like, I have a lot of other things going on in my life. Maybe it's just that manifesting itself as this fear that something's wrong with her.
So, Emily, every human being has a right to be understood. Every human being has a right to be listened to, not just put the chair in the corner, but listened to without suggestions, criticism, or advice. Every human being has the right to be respected and to be treated as an equal and to be given the benefit of the doubt and the freedom to decide. And if someone is not giving any of those things, and I talk to young ladies about this in romantic relationships frequently, if somebody is not giving you those things in your life, don't expect them to change and do that. So, what's the progression? So, she threw up all over you.
Yes, and then she passed out. So called the ambulance, called my dad to come pick up because my son was home with us, and so he was terrified. My dad came as Rob was putting an IV in McKenna, and the ride to the hospital was excruciatingly long, and I'm looking at they put the monitors on her and everything like that, and her heart rate was 50, and I didn't know exactly what that meant, but I knew it was not good because she's a young child. It should be like in the low 100s. And so we get to the hospital. I called her dad on the way because he was at work on Neville Island. So that's like an hour drive all the way home. We get into the hospital and they're working on her. I'm behind her bed crying, please don't leave me. Please save my baby. A nurse, don't know her name, but she came in and told me that if I didn't get it together, they were going to remove me from the room. And I was like, how dare you? This is my baby. Like, she's 2.5 and I have no clue what's going on with her. How dare you tell me to get it together? I wasn't interfering. I was just crying. I was terrified. I've never had to rush any of my children to the hospital before. I've never had any experience with like a major medical event like this, especially with one of my children.
So my guess is that if that person would have just validated your behavior and said, I hear that you're very upset, I hear that you're scared to death. And if she would have validated your behavior, you might have felt better about it.
Yeah, absolutely. If pat me on the shoulder and say, we're doing everything we can, it's going to be okay. Even if you don't think it's going to be okay, at least, comfort a mom in that time, because I was there by myself. Like, her dad wasn't there yet. My dad had Reese out in the waiting room. He wasn't going to bring him in while they eventually ended up intubating her, and we were life-flighted to Children's.
So were you able to fly on a helicopter?
Yes, which was like a crazy experience because, one, I've never been in a helicopter before, and two, I couldn't hear what the medevac people were saying to each other. So like, they were obviously monitoring McKenna, and I was just looking out the window like, one, holy crap, I'm in a helicopter, and two, what are they saying? What are they saying about my baby? And I had like the headphone things on, but they didn't turn it on until we were about to land. But it was kind of surreal being up in the helicopter. Like, I just had this like calm over me, which I don't know how to describe it because my brain was going like 1,000 miles a minute, but my heart was like, we're going to get her there. It's going to be okay. And then we got there and it was not okay.
So you got off there were attendants waiting to take her in.
Yes, we got off the helicopter, literally rolled into, I think, room 513 at the PICU, and it's right at like the intersection of a hallway. And within minutes, I mean, the medevac people were giving the doctors that were in service that day. So it was Dr. Simon, who's a neurologist, Dr. Oog, who is a fellow, and I forget the woman. There was a resident who was sitting next to me, and she was the sweetest. But McKenna crashed in the middle of them trying to give them report, and I remember Oog yelled for an ultrasound machine because her blood pressure just went to 0. And he put the ultrasound machine on her heart, and Dr. Simon, who apparently does not curse, said, "Holy shit, what the fuck is that?" or something of that nature. And it was a 2-centimeter tumor on her heart. And I remember like just all of this chaos. Dr. Simon yelled for the ECMO cart, and I know what ECMO is because in ever since I had McKenna, I started following like medical kids on Instagram for whatever reason, and there have been children that had been placed on ECMO. So I knew what it was, and I was like, this is really not good.
Could you share with us what it is?
So ECMO is a heart-lung bypass machine. So basically, it takes the blood out of you, oxygenates it in a machine, and then puts it back in you. It just does the work that your heart, basically.
Okay.
And I looked at the woman sitting next to me and I said, "Does that mean she has cancer?" And she said, "I don't know." And Dr. Simon looked at me and said, "Get mom out of the room now." So they took me down because it was a like intersection of a hallway. They took me to this little private waiting area, and I could see her room. I could see all the chaos going on in her room, but I just had to stay there, and I didn't know, like, I had phone calls to make. I called, well, my dad did kind of make most of the phone calls, but everyone, my in-laws, her dad, my dad, my stepmom, everyone was coming down to the hospital because we had no clue. I don't even know how many minutes passed, but I remember this angel of a woman, absolute angel of a woman, Dr. Luciana de Fontesca de Silva. I don't want to say it wrong, crap. But anyway, she's an angel, and she came in, and she is a cardiac thoracic surgeon. She invented the cone procedure, which fixes some type of heart defect. And she came in, and she said she had to do open heart surgery to remove the tumor. And so
This is all occurring within a very short
Oh,
period
yeah.
of time.
Yes. So I asked if I could see McKenna before she took her down and take pictures of her belly with no scars on it. And she had an accent, so I asked her where she was from. And she said Brazil. My 2 best friends growing up were from Brazil. And for whatever reason, I was like, "You're from Brazil, I trust you." And she said, "I don't know if I can save her, but I'm going to do my best." And she did.
She was honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget that first I hugged her because what else do you do when they're taking your baby away? For some reason, I asked her if I could hug her, and I hugged her, and then she took McKenna down, and they took us to the like surgery waiting room.
Was McKenna conscious?
No, and it wasn't because they put her on meds. She was just out.
Okay, so this was bang, bang, bang.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what time it was when we got there, but it was like within an hour we were going down for surgery.
Okay. So how did you keep it together? What type of support system did you have?
So I don't know how I kept it together, but my husband David was there, my dad was there, Kelly and Doug, my mother and father-in-law, were there. I can't remember if my stepmom was there or not. I don't know why. I just can't remember that right now. So we went and we sat in a waiting room, and I Googled things. And I Googled basically like heart tumor, and the majority was that typically tumors on the heart are non-cancerous, which didn't really do much to ease my anxiety. But just being with particularly my dad, because he had lost my brother, so being with him there and having, the grandparents there, it was only us in the waiting room because it was nighttime, and it was just sitting there trying to just get on with it. I don't pass the time, basically. I texted a lot of people. Like my two best friends. I mean, it was just such a surreal experience. I remember at one point I got on Facebook and like I don't ever go on Facebook and ask for prayers typically. And I didn't really say much. I just said like if you pray, do a moon dance, cast a spell, whatever you do, send my child the vibes because I went from last night we were playing at the playground and she climbed up the tallest slide by herself and went down it. And today we're in open heart surgery. And at that point, all we knew was there's a tumor on the heart and we're removing it. We didn't know the extent of everything.
Was there any calmness or assurance that your daughter was in probably the most competent hands
I did feel that way. I felt
perhaps in
like,
the world?
yeah, I did feel like, these people know what they're doing. It's not like, no offense, it's not like she was up at Armstrong Hospital having this procedure done. I felt pretty confident for whatever reason because she was from Brazil. Don't know why. I knew that she had it handled.
What we always want to do is stay within our scope of practice. And I think we have to give the folks at Armstrong County Hospital much credit for knowing that was outside of their scope of practice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would have asked probably for her to be transferred somewhere else if they think, I mean, they did get her stabilized there, which they had to do, obviously, or she wouldn't have been life-flighted, but it was good that they didn't try to do anything else for her there.
We'll be back next week to continue our conversation with Emily, and this is one of the most insightful, moving podcasts we've ever had.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.